So we skip ahead to episode 16, which is immediately after the introduction of Chiana, originally a one-off character that they realized would improve the dynamic. We kick off with her having nicked something from Zan's room, but that's just backdrop to Crichton's latest letter to his father. Being an explorer is great, but never getting to go home again takes the fun out of it. He doesn't even have a son to tell day from night, and to prevent those nasty rickets. Pilot calls him in because there's something wonky going on, something Moya's only ever seen once before, the day he arrived. Yep, it's a wormhole. This is so impossible, Crichton asks Rigel to make sure he's not hallucinating it, and he's not. He's also not hallucinating that the planet visible on the other side is Earth. After the titles, Crichton has his flight suit back on and is saying his goodbye to Aaron. The cohesion among the characters continued to evolve so that now, rather than not caring the slightest if Crichton leaves, Aaron only makes clear that when he goes, she can't follow.
I'm not certain I'll belong there.
You would. You will. I promise.
We could do a show together where there's a new wormhole every week. He can't afford the time to convince her, though, and even Zan's arguments that this is a mistake, reinforcing what he already knows, can't convince him not to take the one chance that is dropped before him. It's bittersweet. They have all come together as a family. More or less. Touching goodbye with Dargo and Zan, and he even leaves his stuff for Rigel. He likes stuff. But Crichton's off. Hesitates, so Dargo gives him encouragement that whatever the fear, he will regret forever if he doesn't try. So he rides that wormhole while everyone watches from command, and Crichton winds up on a beach. Appropriate given his comment about missing the sun, that he's at a place people usually associate with that in one way or another. Sunrises, sunsets, and sunning. And the opening of Jaws. Stay out of the water. If this ends with a shark attack, that's going to be a bummer.
Excuse me! Miss! Well, I know this is going to sound insane.
But I'm a spaceman. Men with guns and a helicopter show up, and Crichton gets shot with a tranq dart, passing in a delirium through medical tests and waking up in containment where he's questioned. There's some serious suspicion about him, despite the fact this guy, Wilson, personally worked with Crichton 3 times on the Farscape program. They bring in people who speak in various languages to challenge his assertion that there are translator microbes in his body and not some terrible plague. No one will tell him anything either, not even who won the Super Bowl. Though then again, if he said that the 4-12 Rams came back to win the Super Bowl the next year against the Titans, which hadn't existed when Crichton left, he probably would have chalked it up to Australians just not understanding. Crichton's father finally forces his way in to demand answers. So Wilson says that there are microbes in Crichton's brain and the module's been modified by alien technology. They have to ensure he's not a threat. So he's allowed in with Crichton to question him and deduces that it is indeed his son. During the embrace, his dad explains that the wormhole never closed and that they're worried about what might come through it. They finally let Crichton out, but under constant surveillance. Even the Colonel rank insignia is bugged, though it's dropped in the water, where one of Australia's monsters will no doubt find and eat it. It's explained that the fear of invasion has created a global alliance. They want answers, but are concerned that if Crichton isn't who he says he is, that it'd be disinformation rather than valuable intel. They're obviously fascinated with the changes to the module, and Crichton recognizes the guy working on it right now from previous stuff. No surprise there. What is a surprise is a ship coming through the wormhole and coming into land, one of Moya's transport pods. F-16s intercept, but Crichton explains they don't have weapons on that ship. But they do have fascinating beings who can't speak English. The translator microbes operate in only one direction, input, which makes sense. You can't respond in every known dialect of those around you, not unless you're possessed by the Holy Ghost. This does lead to some wrinkles, though, like on IET, when those beings without access to galactic technology could understand Crichton and Pilot, and Dargo if you want to count violence as a language. Still, on the whole, as an episode that's a pillar of the show behaving logically, it should obviously trump Problem of the Week episodes that don't. They're suspicious of the aliens, and the aliens are suspicious of Crichton's people, responding to their concern for his well-being by locking them in a cage. And something is making Rigel sick. So sick that he's soon dead and dissected. Crichton is incensed that after all the acts to say we want to meet other intelligences in peace, this is what we do when they arrive in peace. They say it's an allergic reaction to the trank, but Crichton believes they killed Rigel just so they could study him. And Dargo makes clear that when it's his turn, he will not go quietly. As established with IET, it ain't the first time he's been in this position. As for Aaron...
You know, Crichton, peacekeepers wouldn't even kill their prisoners to study them.
Ouch. It's bad when the fascists have the moral high ground. Crichton asks his father to pull in every favor he has to try to get them to stop this. Meanwhile, he's going to go kick the shit out of Wilson. Even if he might die, he won't stand by and do nothing. When he finds the guard unconscious and Aaron free, he chooses his friends over his people. Oh, the gun obviously makes that answer easy. Dargo was taken away, but Aaron escaped when they came for her. They talk to Cobb, who says that Dargo was taken to another base, so Crichton takes his badge. It's a different moment now. The weapons that he and Aaron are carrying, they are not sci-fi. They are real weapons we know have only one setting: kill. Okay, well, I suppose technically they do have a stun setting. Crichton takes Aaron to a place that his father said could be used as a safe house, and they have some beers there. She's taking this much better than him, probably because he's so disappointed that returning home wasn't what he hoped it'd be, in any form. Even the sun is gone in this thunderstorm. Aaron makes clear that if they find her, she will not be retaken alive. And in that moment, the two finally make the shippers happy. We'll just leave it at that. The next morning, Aaron has been looking for isolated places to hide after getting changed. Not a lot of options to choose from. Crichton's father arrives, having guessed he'd come here, but Aaron's convinced that he's working for the authorities. I mean, on finding them. Obviously, he works for the authorities. He's a colonel. He doesn't have a secret blend of herbs and spices. He says that Dargo was sent to a base in Utah and gives some money to help out. She then speaks gibberish at him before departing.
Thank you, Aronson.
I don't know what that was for. I only explained I tried flushing the uniform and overflowed the toilet. As they're walking, Crichton spots the woman that he first saw on the beach after landing. That's a weird coincidence, but weirder still as he realizes that wasn't the first time he saw her. She was at the same high school as him. And then he sees all the magazines on the newsstand are 7 months old. There's nothing new here. And the guy selling the papers was the guy on the beach. Aaron, as the fugitive here, is a little concerned that he's making a scene that doesn't usually dovetail with laying low. Crichton decides to continue being helpful by pulling a gun and waving it around. He's concerned everything he's seeing is a place that he's already been to. Every person, someone he's met. And think about it. Wilson is in charge? You think someone like him is going to be given such an awesome responsibility in a global alliance that actual aliens have landed and he's being left in charge with no 4-star generals from a dozen different countries descending on the place to see themselves? Wilson's just the highest authority figure that Crichton remembers that would make sense in this context. Crichton bursts into a pub, a place he's been before, like everywhere else. There's nothing but places where he's been. Except one place where he hasn't. The ladies' room. Luckily, Crichton never drunkenly walked through the wrong door. He knows this isn't real, heads back to the government building and talks to his father. The father says that most species don't do this well in these situations. Everything he explains is physically real, but taken from Crichton's memories. Dargo's here, Rigel is alive and gorging himself. The beings in control just decided to incorporate them into his scenario since they came to check up on him.
Your reaction.
You made me think you were my father!
Oops. I can tape that back on if you like. He explains to Crichton that they're not far from Moyle where this started. They could go to Earth, but it'd use up all of their power. They're looking for a world that they can share until they are replenished. Clearly, though, that's not going to be Earth. If, as Aaron and Dargo had joked back in Throne for Loss, that Earth was a planet of Crichton's, it'd likely be welcomed. But it isn't one. So they just have to keep searching for a home. A human reaction is a must-see, as it is from this that Crichton gains the subconscious wormhole knowledge that is the reason Scorpius will hunt him. I give it a stamp of strongly recommended. This is an episode brave enough to speak in its silences. Its sight of humanity is perhaps cynical, but hard to argue. Humans form communities by nature. That was a point B5 brought up, but it is true. What humans do by instinct is to find the like and band together because being with the like makes us feel safe. But that being alike can be anything. The crew of Moya went from a group of people stuck with each other to a unified crew because of the trust that can be built into spirit beings that shows where we are alike is in our desire to mutually thrive. The downside is that the instinct is also to find reasons that the unlike are an adversary, by how they look or what they value or what they do. The global alliance, banding together against the potential adversary, meant that Crichton's community, who were different, were considered the adversary. The particularly fascinating thing to consider is how often we see this plot where it is one of the aliens' homeworlds where the characters arrive, where one of them seems clueless to the flaws in their civilization. Like with IET, Farscape flips the scenario around. It's the humans this time, and the human character who seems to not see the truth. This episode left a lasting impression, so it's no surprise that our next episode revisits it, in a sense, with Won't Get Fooled Again.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
我只有问你要做，我